We have George W. Bush on the one hand, a man who has failed across the board as Commander-in-Chief, a man who has failed across the board as an American. This is a man who has disgraced our nation in any number of ways, but especially in Iraq, by misrepresenting intelligence information, by fabricating intelligence information, by creating a threat when a threat did not exist regarding weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And now we're in a war that, frankly speaking, we can't win. You see, you can't talk about winning a war if the foundation for your involvement is corrupt. It's like trying to build a house on a rotten foundation. Anything we try to achieve in Iraq will crumble and fail because we have no foundation of credibility, we have no foundation of integrity. It doesn't matter how much money or American troops or coalition assets and resources that we throw into Iraq, it will all fail because it is built on a foundation of lies. We don't want to compound mistake after mistake by putting the man who made these mistakes back in office. So we want him out. But the only choice we have to replace him is John Kerry. And I'd love to sit here and tell you that I'm a lifelong fan of John Kerry. But I'm not. And there's a number of reasons why. And that many of these reasons are the same reasons that I condemned George W. Bush for. John Kerry is a man who, as a senator sitting on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee before the war, was in a position not only to know the truth, but to actively search out the truth about Iraq. He was a man who was empowered to convene public hearings in which the issue of Iraq could be debated, could be discussed, so the American people could be empowered with information and knowledge about the Iraqi threat. So the American people could make a determination whether or not they would support a war in Iraq based upon the speculative assertions of the president that weapons of mass destruction existed. John Kerry chose not to take advantage of his position, but instead to ignore the advice proffered by those, such as myself, who were in a position to whisper words of caution into his ear, that that which is being said by the president and his advisors is not true. John Kerry chose to ignore it. He did worse than that. John Kerry didn't even read the CIA's National Intelligence Assessment on Iraq before he voted for war. So I have a little bit of problem with John Kerry. Now, John Kerry will say, I voted for war to give the president the tools he needed to build an international basis of support so that America would not be going to war alone. Now, John Kerry was recently asked, after the Senate Select Intelligence Committee came out with its report, that there was no basis from intelligence to sustain the president's assertion that Iraq probably was disarmed, there are no weapons of mass destruction, there was never a threat, there was never a link with Al-Qaeda. Every single point the president made to support this war has been proven false. And John Kerry was asked, if you had known this at the time that you voted, what would your vote have been? He refused to answer. He said, that's a hypothetical situation. I don't want to deal with it. But then when asked what his policy is on Iraq, he said, if I am elected president, I will seek to build international support for our involvement in Iraq. Well, he just doesn't get it. Because the international community rejected our involvement in Iraq, not because they love Saddam Hussein, not because they reject the notions of freedom and democracy, but because the basis for war was not there. That the United States had not made its case regarding weapons of mass destruction. That there was no justification in international law to engage Iraq to begin with. Now, the international community made this decision in 2002. How does John Kerry think he's going to convince the international community today, now that they know the entire basis for war is false, to jump in to this quagmire with us? What's John Kerry's plan? Now, we want to get rid of George W. Bush. I want to do that too. But I have to tell you right now, there are many Americans out there like myself who are registered Republicans, who voted for George W. Bush in the last election, who aren't very happy with the performance of George W. Bush, but they need a reason to vote for John Kerry. They need a reason, and we need to give them that reason. And the way we give them that reason is to use our collective status as veterans of the armed services of the United States of America, men and women who have taken that oath to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now more than ever, George W. Bush is a domestic enemy of the Constitution. For us who have already made up our mind that we're going to vote to get Bush out of the office. But there's many Americans out there who, while they reject Bush, cannot embrace Kerry. And we have to find a way to help John Kerry make himself embraceable. John Kerry is going to be under a lot of pressure to say the politically correct thing. And when it comes to Iraq, that will be stay the course. That will be build international support. That will be to ensure that we emerge victorious. These cannot be achieved. This will not happen. How do we get John Kerry to change his mind? We need to remind John Kerry of his past. Unlike George W. Bush, he is a veteran of combat. And as a veteran of the Vietnam War, John Kerry sat before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and told them, lectured them, chided them. Which one of these politicians, he said, wants to be the man responsible for the last American soldier to die in Vietnam because of political reasons, because of somebody's political ambition? Well, the question must be asked to John Kerry. How many American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines do you want to die in Iraq for your political ambition? Iraq represents perhaps the defining issue of this election. It represents the manifestation of all that has gone wrong in America, not only in the last 4 years, but for many years prior to that. It represents the logical end of imperial reach. We failed in Iraq not because we were outfought. We failed in Iraq not because the enemy was richer than us. We failed in Iraq because it was a bad idea to begin with. It was a war that did not need to be fought under any circumstance. What does John Kerry do? How does he extricate himself and the country from Iraq? Get out. The answer must be as simple as that, sir. Get out. Get out. Get out.